I guess start off with just your name and when you were born, where you were born.
My name is John C. Harris. I was I got my father's middle name. His name was Comer Harris, so he named me John Comer Harris. 1948, and I was born at Hillman Hospital, which is the University of Alabama at this time. We lived there. When you come across Center Street into Titusville, there was long time ago, there was some shotgun houses. So we were right at the tracks. And when they built Loveman Village, we moved from there to Loveman Village. And I was, I've been in Loveman Village. I think we moved in the 40s. And so that's where I grew up at, in Loveman Village Housing Project, until I finished high school and got married.
And so you were one of the first families.
We were one of the first families to moving to Loveman Village Housing Project, yes.
And what was that, 1951, 52?
51. I was born in 48, so it was 51 that we moved into Loveman Village.
So tell me about that. Tell me about what it was like to, I mean, you were very young, of course, but what are your memories of moving in and seeing the new space?
Well, like I said, we moved. One reason we moved because my father passed, so we moved to Loveman Village. It was a place to raise a family at that time, and it was a community of people who lived next door, and you all had a common things. All everybody was in the same boat, and it was a fun time. Some of the kids went to Washington. I went to Center Street. We was the upper part of Loveman Village, so we went to Center Street. My father passed, so my mother never did remarry, and so she had to raise us on her own. She was on welfare. Welfare was the item at that time. My mom, like I said, she did not work. She didn't work, so she basically received welfare. So that's where we were.
But there were four kids, right?
We had 5 kids. My mom had 5 kids. Me, 2 boys and 3 girls. She had later on, when I first moved there, my other sister, my last sister came later. But it was 4 of us, and then my sister. Then she had another kid, which was my sister.
Well, tell me more about the neighborhood, or in Loveman Village, when you first moved in. You're in the 50s. What it was like to live there, and the freedom to play, and I guess feeling safe, and having a lot of discipline from parents.
Yeah, that's what I was about to get into. One of the main things when I was growing up was that everybody knew everybody. Everybody was in the same boat. Then there wasn't a lot of people. Then you had a lot of single families, mothers and fathers, and then my mom basically used to clean house for people over the mountain, so she would go there, and we would be at the house. It was a community where everybody knew each other, and nobody was above anybody else because we all was in the same boat. Most of the people there were living off welfare, my mom would go over the mountain to work when she did work. When it was the time when school was segregated for one thing, and so we all attended. I attended Center Street. Washington School was built long before Center Street, so by us being on this upper part of Loveman Village, we went to Center Street. A lot of kids went to Washington School. My mom never did remarry, so she basically, after leaving, working for people of the mountain, she began to get welfare. And my father passed. He didn't, there was nothing left for us but to go on the welfare.
Tell me about the rent parties when people in their neighborhood couldn't pay their rent.
Right. Well, that happened. You build when I was coming to Loveman, you had a community, people's community. People help people out, and if a neighbor is not able to pay her rent, there will be rent parties to help her pay her rent. We're most cohesive, most together because we basically had to deal with each other. We're not, Mom would take me sometime when she go over the mountain to work for the lady she was working for. I would go over sometime and cut the grass, so I'll get a little change in my pocket. I went to, most of the kids in Loveman went to Washington, like I said. Upper part of Loveman, where I lived at, we went to Center Street.
What was the difference in those two schools?
Well, Center Street was basically in a community where you had what we call Honeysuckle Hill. You had workers, people who worked in professional people living in other side, South Titusville. We call it South Titusville. One time it was one Titusville. There was no South and North, and most of the you had most of the doctors, nurses, professional people who lived in the homes that were built in South Titusville. We had some of our teachers who lived in Titusville, so there were teachers that lived, and there were people other than just one side of town, and and then they built Woodland Park, which was another part of on that side with South Titusville. My mom would work, like I said, she would go to the mountain work, so sometime I would go over there with her and cut the people grass and do little small chores and put a little money in my pocket. That time I finished, I went to Center Street, like I said, I finished Center Street, then I went to Loveman, and I finished Loveman. And when I finished Loveman, got a job at UAB, so I began to work at UAB. After I finished Loveman High School, I never had a desire to go up to college or anything.
What did you do at UAB?
I worked in the cafeteria. at UAB, bussing tables and things of that nature. I wasn't no cooking, but I cleaned and bus tables in the cafeteria.
I want to go back to going with your mom over the mountain into rich people's homes. Talk about your memories of that. Talk about what it was like to be in that kind of environment. What the people, your observations of the people who lived there. Any stories that come to mind? Interactions that you had with them?
Not really, other than the person my mother worked for. They helped out as much as they could. She was working for them. She was their employee. But if there was maybe clothes their kids couldn't wear or something, nice clothes, they would give them to mom, and I would, like I said, I'd go over there and cut the grass and stuff. They was from another country. They was not Americans. They were from another country, so I never had felt that they felt they were better than us or anything of that nature. They treated me and treated my mom. They was not. I didn't see any prejudice from them. They could help mom. They would. Like I say, and they would come get her sometime. Sometimes she had to ride the bus.
Do you recall their name?
No, I don't recall their names.
But you had a good relationship with them.
Yes. They was, like I said, I would go over and cut the grass, and and they really didn't have any kids, so I wasn't around a lot of white kids.
Did you have any contact with white kids when you were growing up?
I didn't. White people were, once I became part of the UAB and I was involved with organizations that had white people in, like in the one I can remember particularly is they were communists, and they lived across the mountain. I used to go over there and I got involved with them in the organization, and they were involved in some of the activities going on with the integration and stuff and that was going on downtown.
And that's just one family that you remember that was involved in that?
Once I became involved in a number, there was a lot of white friends that were part of a lot of these organizations that I was part of, and we worked well together as far as getting involved in the activity. I didn't get involved too much in a lot of the protests that went on in Birmingham. I was not involved. Most time that I got involved with part of some organizations that I was involved in. So
you weren't involved in any of the activities in 1963, the Children's Crusade, or
the Children's Crusade when it took place. Mom made sure that we came home from after school, so I never got involved with the marches and all of that. No.
I think you said that white folks that you did encounter at one point were communists. Is that right?
Those that got involved with were communists. They was there when protests was going on and stuff like that. I became part of another group of white people. I can't think of what their last name were, but we worked well together in a lot of the protests.
Are these people from out of town or people locally?
People. They were people that lived in Birmingham.
Just going back to school, to your elementary school and high school, I think you said in your interview with Paula, you talked about one teacher in particular, Mrs. Southall, is that right? Who was an important guide for you, who was a good counselor and maybe also a principal. Could you talk about the teachers who influenced you and your life? Okay. Well, I grew fond of art my early years in school, and especially in high school. Miss Mitchell, Mitchell was the art teacher. So I worked well with her, and I learned a lot as far as I was concerned. There was some of the things, that's why you see a lot of painting and stuff. And there was, I won awards, but I never got the paintings back because they traveled all over the world, so I never seen them again. But and I won a lot of awards. I really wasn't for the A student and all that, and I was average. But art was my thing, and instead of going to gym
And at some point, I started going to art class. So I spent maybe twice a day in art school, and I learned a lot from my teacher, Ms. Mitchell, Mitchell, who was the art teacher at that time. I won some awards, and like I said, I had painting that went across the world, and I never see again. They put in shows and went across the world. I never seen it again. One, but I did with that painting I did with Mabry and the baby. I don't know whatever happened to it.
The encouragement that you received from art teacher, I mean, that I'm sure that was huge in importance.
Yes. Because it's good to go to an art event and win a prize, you know. Like I said, I had paintings that went all over the world. I never got back, but it was some of my art that I did during that time.
So you don't have pictures or anything that just somewhere in the world, right?
Yeah. I couldn't do portraits. I love still life. I love landscaping. I do a lot with landscaping. Like I said, a lot of the work I did, I don't have. That was my thing. Instead of going to the gym, I went to art class twice a day. That was what I liked to do. I was never good at doing portraits with still life and abstracts and stuff like that.
I want to get back to the Titusville community and all that you've done, but first, your experience, your 4 years, I guess, in the Air Force,
Yes.
Including your relationships with other guys and just what that was like, your experience.
Well, we seem to be, whites and blacks seem to be more, in the Air Force, more cohesive together. You know, when we like it was in the Philippines. I spent time in the Philippines, and we would all go downtown, you know, together and stuff. But I never saw or felt in the Air Force that, you know, we were all treated with the same. So the Air Force was a good experience. I was a sheet metal mechanic, so I worked on C-130 transfer planes, patching them up when they come back from Vietnam over to the Philippines, fighter planes. I learned a lot about repair of planes, and when I left the Air Force, I came and I got a job at Hayes Aircraft. I worked there for a minute before I went to University Hospital to work.
I bet that was a shift in culture coming from being in the Air Force to working at Hayes Aircraft. Could you talk about how things were different in terms of white and black once you got out of the Air Force and began to work at Hayes?
Well, I didn't work at Hayes very long. I got a job in University Hospital. I had no way of getting back and forth. I had no car or anything, so I only worked at Hayes a small amount of time, but I saw no prejudice or stuff like that. Working with them, I've always been able to build a relationship with people, white, black, any other color, because I have a lot of respect for people. I couldn't really understand a lot that went on during the civil rights struggle and all of that, because I didn't see, I know there was white people and there were black people, but I had no problem with, white people. And I was able to build, those I was involved with white people. There was a group that I got involved with that became part of my organization. I formed an organization called Concerned Citizens for Social Change. So we had, in my organization, we had black and white that worked together, especially was involved in some of the things that went on in the city of Birmingham.
Could you say the name of that organization again? I heard the train when you were saying it.
Concerned Citizens for Social Change is the organization I formed just before I left the post office.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about your career at the post office as well, because you were there for a long time.
I was there until I decided to go ahead and retire. I never had any problem with the post office until I got my own route. I worked Homewood. I worked in Bluff Park. They would send me in different places. I was basically a floater, and I didn't have a route of my own till I bid on a route in West End. Came to West End, so I worked in Carver Heights before I worked in downtown. Mostly it was before I went out into outside downtown. Worked at Homewood, like I said, I worked in Crestline. I used to float, so they would send me in different places a lot, and I got a chance to meet a lot of people, you know. And I never had the feeling that, you know, the race thing. I never had a feeling. Some of the whites I worked with, some were part of a communist party. I met some people that I worked with them. A lot of the people, and I had whites who became part of my organization. I formed, and we all worked together, you know. And like I said, a lot of time when I would go, my mom, when she worked with, over the mountain with the white, I would go over there. I never had no problems. And the people that she worked with, never had no problem with them. I didn't get involved with the marches and all that during the time, because I basically came home from school, and then when they go out to go, I came home. I didn't really get involved with that because I was close to my mom, and you know she wanted us home, so I would go home. I later on got involved with a lot of folks and stuff, but it had nothing to do with segregation. You know, we fought issues. Some of the people I was involved with, part of the Communist Party. You know, I learned a lot about what other people felt. I stayed close to home. You know, when I was coming up, I basically stayed close to home, so I didn't really get out until, you know, after I finished high school, I got a job. But as far as being an activist and addressing issues, that's what I prefer to do. This neighborhood, I've done a lot of work in this neighborhood as far as fighting issues. I continue to do that. I became neighborhood president. When I became neighborhood president, I began to push issues that need to be pushed in this neighborhood, and been able to accomplish some of them. Even before that, I formed the first housing cooperative in this city, called the Goldwire Circle Housing Cooperative. I used to live in those apartments, and they were donated. That's right across the street. They were donated to the housing authority, and I was working with the housing authority. I was able to acquire 2 buildings to form a housing co-op. We survived a long time.
Tell me how that happened, how you went about getting those 2 buildings from the city, right?
From the housing authority.
From the housing authority, yes.
The housing authority owned the building. I've been working with the housing authority, not as an employee, but as an activist. Like I said, I formed an organization called Concerned Citizens for Social Change. And that organization, like I said, some of the white members was coming to people, and they became part of our group, and we all worked together. When the housing authority, and I lived in an apartment, when the housing authority was giving those apartments, I had attended the Federal Southern Cooperative to learn about housing co-op. So when the housing authority acquired those apartments, I went to them to see if we could own. I really wanted to own the whole complex, but there were at least 2 buildings. We was able to get 2 buildings and began to pull in membership people, educating people about what a housing co-op was.
And did your group manage the co-op, or I mean, how was that set up?
The co-op, we managed our own buildings. But people really didn't, but some of the members really didn't understand the concept. I just decided that this house came available. I decided I always wanted to own my own, so I decided to leave the co-op and come over here and in this house. They lost it a few years later. I tried to go back and teach because I had to go, like I said, I went to Southern Cooperative. So I learned a lot when I went there to learn about what a housing co-op was and everything, and was able to convince those that became members to let's do this and own these two buildings.
And that just seems like such a smart thing to do, right? Because if you hadn't been allowed to own those two buildings, they would have been destroyed, right?
They would have came down, but the rest of them, they had those two buildings they planned on demolishing, and we just say we would like to own them, and we formed the co-op so that we could. A lot of us worked there. Like I said, I work in the university, so I couldn't get on those Section 8 and see that when the house bought those buildings, they set them up so they can get federal money to rehab them and all of that. Rehabbed out. We rehabbed the building the two buildings that were sitting there that we got. We rehabbed them. We brought in contractors and we picked them the way we wanted. We put air conditioning, everything all the amenities that they wasn't putting in the other units, we put in our units.
What happened to the other units?
The other units, the housing authority used those units for rental units for Section 8. So people that went into those units, not only they would get Section 8, the monies, in order for this housing authority to pay back the money they used to renovate them and all up, they put in Section 8 tenants. And the tenants that went in there was Section 8. So they was going to receive the rent money in a way through Section 8. And some of them didn't have to pay any rent. Well, Section 8 paid all that rent. Now we did bring in a few Section 8 tenants once someone had moved out. The co-op was some of the people moved. And so in order to continue to get some money to cover those units, we did bring in some Section 8 tenants.
As soon as you got the two buildings rehabbed, a good many people moved in, right? They were filled up pretty quickly.
They became filled up. We preferred to have owners, but until we got owners, then we would use Section 8 tenants some.
This was what year, roughly, when you rehabbed those buildings and started the co-op? How long ago?
This was 80 something, 84. 79 is when the housing authority received that all those apartments over in 79. So our co-op went in about 82. Between
then and now, what's happened with those buildings?
What happened is that the housing authority, they closed the apartment building down. Someone bought the property to build single-family homes. So that's what you got over there now, is single-family home. The buildings are still there. There's an apartment building, so they did rehab those buildings. That's the only apartment left over there is the co-op units that was there. Everything else around is homes.
You've really been such a leading force in the community and improving it. And so could you talk about some of the other things you've done, some of the battles you've had to fight?
No, it's been a lot. It's been a lot. We had to fight. Now, one of the things that we, like I said, I grew up in Loveman Village. And one of the things that we always have wanted is for them to, they were taking other units, other side of town, and putting in new houses and stuff, fixing other apartments up. So we kept pushing them to do something about Loveman Village, and finally something was done, and they now have single-family homes. But that was my route. I carried that route until I retired. So not only did I live there once, but I also carried that route, and also pushed for me to do something about Loveman Village. And they end up remodeling the apartments, and now you have a whole different, another set of units there that is never thought I would ever see. It's called, right now they call it Bill of Titusville. Yeah. That's one thing we want them to change the name and everything. If you look at what's going on in those apartments over on 3rd Avenue, I lived in one of those before I bought my house, and it has, you wouldn't even know what it was when we was coming up. There was even the housing project, which was 500 some units. All that has changed. So a lot of things have changed in this neighborhood. Other things that they have pushed. Some of the battles I have had, I was on the Transit Advisory Board, so I was involved in a lot of things that happened with the transit. I just always felt that I wanted to help out. I wanted to be a part of something, and a lot of things happen in this neighborhood has happened because I have pushed. I helped to create Titusville Development Corporation, which is our development. So we were one of the first neighborhood that has a development corporation, formal development corporation. So a lot of the houses that I became neighborhood president of the neighborhood association, and as a member of the neighborhood association, push a lot of houses. See that a lot of houses got demolished, and this whole neighborhood changed once we start putting in new housing and Washington School. I didn't go to Washington School because I lived on this side. I went to Center Street. I love my neighborhood. I have been here all my life.
It must feel really good to see the things that have resulted from your pushing for them.
Well, fighting, it ain't been just pushing. I've had to battle with the city about a number of things, but we was able to get things done because persistent, and that's the way I've always been. I'm not quick to take no for an answer. If it can be done, I'm gonna find a way to get it done, and that's what I have done for a long time. I really feel that the city should have left the neighborhood election alone. I wasn't elected again president, but that then don't stop what I do. Because I'm still involved with UAB, I'm still involved with Titusville Development, and I'm involved with other organizations that are doing things in this neighborhood.
One thing that stood out in your interview with Paula was you're talking about the school that was constantly being flooded, being in a flood zone. Were you part of the developing that strategy to divert the water into watering gardens?
Yes. The school, we're basically talking about Washington School. Titusville Development, which built a lot of houses around Washington School. You'll see those houses right across from Washington School and around Washington School. I was part of that board at one time. One of the things that happened even was that they brought houses from other places, and they were still doing that. There's 2 houses right now down the street from Washington School that Bill Up have brought over here and said, Bill Up is, they over here, used to be the bowling alley over here. That's that school that for the kids. I've been involved with it, and I'll stay involved with it for as long as I can. My thing is, I live here. I want to see what's best that can happen for this neighborhood. Kids growing up now, they didn't have to face a lot of stuff we faced when I was coming up. You know, but one thing that my father died early, so my mom basically had to raise 5 kids on her own. So, and because of her teaching and her guidance, I never my brother got in trouble. I never did because I was always looking to do something to help somebody, and that's what I've basically done, and continue to do. We have a group now where we are going out and we are cleaning lots. Titusville development. We are involved with a group that's going to each other neighborhoods and cleaning up and stuff like that.
One of your comments that you made several times in your interview with Paula was that you would rather see a building torn down than to have it abandoned and attract.
Right. And that's, I have witnessed some of that, where we go in, find a person deceased in the building. Instead of having an abandoned building for a lot of things to take place, crime and stuff to take place, if you remove the blight, then even if you got a vacant lot there, it's better than having a place where people can use to do things that they shouldn't be doing.
And in terms of cleaning up, your group goes in and cleans up lots in different neighborhoods.
There's 8 neighborhoods come together. We call ourselves the Blight Busters. And we go in each other's neighborhood and we clean, we adopt a lot to clean up. We do neighborhood cleanup. We go in and we can help rehab a house. So those are things that we're involved with doing. So right now we're still doing that, but we're not having virtual meetings. We're having meetings over the TV and stuff, But when we go out to clean up, we go into each other's neighborhood and do the cleaning.
Trinity property fights, Sterlite recycling plants, Walmart. Okay. Yes, okay. All of those fights.
Right. Well, Stericycle wanted to bring medical waste over here, and we basically said no.
Let's see, what year would this have been, and just explain what that company does and what they were trying to do in the neighborhood.
Okay.
Was that BFI?
Stericycle had to do with medical waste that was being transferred over here, and we basically fought that battle. They tried to keep them out of here. Other people we have fought to keep out of here was the tires. They wanted to bring a bunch of tires over here on the property. We had the opportunity to have a Walmart supercenter, and they just sold us out. We supported having Walmart to come here, but
I don't quite understand what happened there, because I know you wanted it, and but how was that sabotaged? I mean, what happened?
We supported the Walmart, but the city didn't support it. But that was the ideal spot for a Walmart supercenter.
Now, where was this, John? What spot are you referring to?
It would have been on the Trinity site. Number of the council that didn't support it, and so we didn't get the Walmart.
That was a big disappointment.
It was for jobs. The closest Walmart here is Homewood, so that's where we was going to Homewood to the Walmart before they did a Walmart over here over on Dublin Superhighway.
Your group wanted the Walmart.
We wanted the Walmart. The city didn't build a Walmart in Homewood.
They
Green
wanted the
Springs.
property for something else, right? I mean, that's what eventually.
Well, there was site was where they built steel and stuff, and the cleanup. They were going to have to clean up the property and all that, but it was brownfield, So that's some of the reason because they didn't really support the Walmart like.
Was this when Bernard Kincaid was mayor? Was the whole Walmart?
Yeah, when Bernard Kincaid was mayor.
And he was supportive too.
Yeah, yeah.
Going back to the waste management company, Sterilite. So what they wanted to do was build a waste management facility.
They wanted to transport medical waste over here, and we, our kids, inquisitive and stuff. We didn't really feel that it should have been up there.
Talk about the Greater Humane Society.
Okay. You wouldn't allow Walmart to come now. Now you want to bring in the Humane Society with thousands of dogs. So we had to battle them with that. The concern was, why would we want dogs there when you could have a Walmart? You stopped the Walmart, but now you want to support bringing the Humane Society over here. That wouldn't fit. We had talked with the Humane Society, and we let them know we don't support that. We wanted a Walmart. We wanted jobs. Now, we supported who's there now, DC Block. We prefer to have DC Block than the dogs there. DC Block, whatever they're doing, and what they're looking at all that property, not just the spot that they are at.
But your group succeeded then in blocking the Humane Society,
right,
as well as blocking the waste management.
Yes. I mean, we need jobs. Walmart will brought jobs. The other stuff wasn't bringing no jobs. And, people right here need jobs. Our kids need jobs. Those jobs would have been better for this neighborhood than $20,000.
Mm-hmm. So as things stand now, what are your main focuses? I'm
no longer the neighborhood president. The pandemic had a lot to do with that. So I'm working with Titusville Development, and we'll continue to be involved with 7, 8 neighborhoods working together. And we go into each other's neighborhood, do some cleaning.
John, how is what you're doing now, how does it fit in with the Titusville comprehensive plan? And talk a little bit about that comprehensive plan.
We always felt that we needed to have a plan. So we went to the city. In fact, we put up money to start the plan, get the plan done. And hopefully a few years from now, we'll stay on the road that we're on as far as increasing housing in the neighborhood and building new houses in the neighborhood. My fight for the neighborhood is not the fight that the new people are willing to do. We have a group of people, the leadership does not like Titusville development. We created Titusville development. Titusville development came about because the neighborhood association incorporated Titusville development. We hired executive director to run Titusville development. Mr. Bayless, who is now the director, I worked very well with them. We are working with, like I said, these other neighborhoods, and you still got all that property over there with DC Block. And DC Block basically gonna gain control of all of it. So maybe we can work with them to get some of the things that we want to see done happen. I continue to let my voice be heard. I continue working with to see something better happen in the neighborhood, and our best chance seeing a lot of things happen is going to be through Titusville development. When we created that, it has done a lot to improve the housing in the neighborhood, because that's what they were doing. They were building houses. They have provided jobs for residents to be a part of that. I have not really got that involved with DC Block. So I'm just waiting to see what they're looking at, something that they're planning on getting done over here.
Are you optimistic about the future of the neighborhood and beyond that, our country?
For the neighborhood concern, and I don't think that we're going to get the neighborhood association as involved with what's happening in the neighborhood as I was as a neighborhood officer. I don't think that this new leadership understands what role city government has played, the neighborhood association has really played in this neighborhood. We got people there now who don't really, it's not really looking at the things that I was, and then all the fights I had fight. They're not looking at that. Don't seem to be moving in the neighborhood where it needs to be moved. I gave them thought of maybe running again, but I'm having to deal with Geraldine, who has dementia, and there's a lot on me. I'm not even going to neighborhood meetings. At the same time, I am working with city development. I'm working with our organization with the other neighborhoods, and I'll continue to be involved, and I'll continue to voice my opinion when I need to. I have a whole lot of hope for this neighborhood, and this neighborhood came a long way from when we first came to Titusville. I think it's going to continue to move.
What about our country?
We have a long way to go as a country. Hopefully, we don't have to get into no more wars. But I think that this country, as far as democracy is concerned, I think this country is moving in the right direction as far as including people. Not discriminating against this group or that group and all that. We have to work together. We're not going to be here forever, but our young people are going to. It's time to educate and train our young people to understand their role as what democracy is all about and what their role in a democracy is. Nobody gives you anything, and we had to fight our way from the British. There's always a fight. We have to understand that everybody has value. We might not attend the same church, may not attend the same schools, but when it comes down to people, serving people and helping people, then that's a role that we need to take.
Do you think we're doing everything we should be doing to move in that direction?
I think that every time we elect a new president, we get involved with new stuff. Everybody ain't gonna think alike, but in order for this world to survive and people to survive, we got to have some love for one another, and that ought to be something that we push for. Hopefully, while I leave this earth, I have contributed to mankind. I wake up every day thanking God I'm alive.
Anything that we haven't touched on that you would like to say?
Right now, I'm going through some things with her in this dimension that it's hard. But I'm going to do everything I can. She helped me with my wife before my wife passed. And I'm going to do everything I can. And it ain't not getting no better. I understand that, but for as long as I can, I'm going to do what I can do. And I'm not getting that support from my family. But I don't worry about that. I can't worry about that. The Neighbor Association, we don't have the gut feeling about the neighborhood. Those people that there now don't have the feeling that I feel about this neighborhood. I was born here. I'm born right here at Hillman Hospital. I grew up here, and I'm gonna die here. you know. I love to see the neighborhood continue to progress, continue to grow, and hopefully the part I paid into it would recognize that I was here and I helped as much as I could.